Good afternoon and welcome everyone to our Girls2Pioneers webinar on the modern female engineer. I'm Hamid, Associate for Programs and Outreach at United Women Singapore. UWS is a Singapore non-profit organization where we aim to advance women's empowerment and gender equality through our programs and outreach. Our Girls2Pioneers STEM program was launched back in 2014 with the aim to inspire and encourage girls to pursue STEM, higher education and careers, which is why sessions such as these are very important to what we do. It's all about connecting young women, young girls to role models in the field who we can have conversations about and with to inspire the next generation. Before we start the webinar, I would like to call upon Ms. Georgette Tan, President of United Women Singapore, to just say a few words. Georgette, please.
Thank you, Hamid. I apologize. I had a little trouble with my Zoom there. I hope everybody can hear me. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being with us today. And we're really looking forward to what promises to be a very inspiring, very engaging, and certainly very interesting discussion on a topic that I think we are all very, very passionate about. And I want to give credit right off to say that we could not be doing this if it were not for the partnership that we have. Firstly, with STMicroelectronics. Thank you so much for your support. STMicroelectronics, certainly one of the leaders and tech brands around the world. And we're very, very grateful to be able to say that you're a partner of ours. And of course, supported by NTU Powers. So thank you for all that support. As Hamid mentioned, UWS, or United Women Singapore, we are a local homegrown women's organization. We are a non-profit. Our focus is gender equality, women's empowerment, with a particular emphasis in building the pipeline of future women leaders. And in this particular respect, it's with the view and the lens of STEM, because we really believe that with the foundation of STEM, this is going to be the competitive advantage that young women, girls, need to level the playing field, not just in schools, but certainly in the workplace, right? And this will also ultimately narrow that gender pay gap that we all know exists everywhere around the world, and even in this sector. So, we've as Hamid said, we started Girls2Pioneers, our STEM program, in 2014. So it's been a number of years. We're growing the program. We're adding to it, building curriculum. And one of the things that we focused on was actually research. So I think you'll find this very, very interesting. When we polled, we did primary research on with some girls and boys here in Singapore, with the view of looking at STEM, it became very apparent. The first thing was, it's not a competence issue. Girls and young women are more than adequately, in fact, exceedingly so, competent when it comes to STEM subjects. But yet they individually, personally feel that they may not be quite up to their male counterparts. So it's a confidence issue, certainly not a competence issue. So we want to try to address that. The second very interesting finding that we had, we came across, was that of the importance of the family network, the immediate family network especially. Encouragement and support from families is critical. And both boys and girls actually said that they felt boys got more support from immediate family, especially parents, when it came to their choosing STEM subjects. So not only do we have a job to build awareness with the young women about the prospects of STEM, but we also have to make sure that parents understand the value that a STEM education can bring. And the third thing that we found very interesting from our research was that of the fact that girls want mentorship. They ask for mentorship. They want role models, which is why programs, initiatives, discussions such as today's session, where we have an open dialogue, free, frank, and very down to earth, with the ability to talk about the challenges, but also the advantages that women also experience along the way of building a STEM career. So without further ado, I bring you and I hand you over to Hamid to start what will be certainly, I think, a very inspirational session on the modern female engineer.
Thank you, Georgia. As Georgia mentioned, we are all very excited for this conversation because it's all about learning from women who are in the field. And I think we have someone very great to moderate the session. I would like to introduce the moderator as well. So we have Ms. Jia Lim, who's actually a student at Nanyang Technological University. She's a year 4 student. So I'll hand it over to her now to walk us through the panel discussion and of course to introduce us to our speakers. Jia, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Hamid, and thank you so much, Georgia, for the inspirational light opening. So hi everyone, a very warm welcome again to today's panel discussion, the modern female engineer. And my name is Jia. I'm actually a final year computer science student in NTU, and I'm currently specializing in cybersecurity. So today, I'll be a moderator for today, and our panelists with us will actually be sharing very personal experiences, as a female in the field of engineering. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce our 3 main panelists today. So first, we actually have Ms. Jolene Hua, product section manager at STMicroelectronics. She's actually responsible for product test quality and continuous productivity improvement within the EWS department. So we'll get her to share a bit more about what the EWS department is as well. So Jolene actually completed her bachelor's degree in electrical and electronic engineering in NTU. So actually our faculties are right next to each other. Super cool to see an alumni here with us as well. And then next we have Ms. Kiang Huai Ling, and she is actually the facility quality manager with STMicroelectronics. So she's actually responsible for maintaining and improving the quality systems within STMicroelectronics plant facilities. So Kualin actually graduated from University Putra, Malaysia with a Bachelor of Science in Physics and a Master in Business Administration from University of Strathclyde. So, it's really cool that, there's learning from within Malaysia as well. I think it's a Malaysia university and, learning from overseas as well. Super cool. We'd love to hear more about this after this. So finally, we have Prof. Lydia Wong, an associate professor at the School of Material Science and Engineering, MSE, in Nanyang Technological University. So she actually presently serves as assistant chair for research at the School of Material Science and Engineering and is the cluster director at the Energy Research Institute at NTU. So we're actually super looking forward to hearing all the things that motivate you guys, drive you, and keep you passionate about the work that you are doing. So, as with all discussions, we would love to engage our audience as well. So feel free to actually drop us questions, and there will be a Q&A section at the end of the sharing. So feel free to drop the questions in the chat as we go along. So with that, we actually, our 3 panelists with us today, and before we dive into, the details of, how you came to where you are today, I'd just like to find out a bit more about yourself. I would just like to get you guys to share, what is something that you really love about your job right now? And, let's zoom into the present first before we dive into your before, present, and what you hope for the future. So perhaps we could start with Ms. Jolene. What's something that you love about your job right now?
Okay, thanks for the good introduction, Gia, Hamid, and Georgia. Okay, I'm a product engineer doing the testing of the products. Why I enjoy my job is that each time I'm facing a lot of new things coming in, new challenges. So those ideas that I have are able to be realized and able to put into place. So becomes that innovative, creative things that coming in and become a workable solution and help to improve the productivity in our floor area and able to meet more demand in the market. And this is the part that I'm seeing thoughts idea become a solution and able to sell. So this is the part that is very enjoyable.
Like the problem solving aspect of it and seeing things
Yes.
become like real as well. That's really
Correct.
cool. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing. And
Thank you.
yeah, and Ms. Tiang, would you like to share more as well?
Thanks, Gia. Okay, yeah. So I'm responsible for the quality role in the facility area. Just in case some of you are not aware what is in the facility area. So in the STMicroelectronics, we actually have a chemical and gas facility, ultra pure water plant, and some wastewater plant. So in fact, our area is pretty big. So I find that, okay, the current job requires me to visit site frequently, and I get to know the processes through the site visits. And I also get to interact with many of my colleagues who are from the different groups of expertise. So with different kind of interaction with them, you seems to know how to deal with or manage people. And not only that, because the plant is big, there seems to be a lot of problems, and getting involved in the problem solving, I think is quite fun because you get to see all sort of problems. And if I manage to resolve together with our group expert, it seems to be very rewarding at the end of the session. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I think that's a very interesting point. So, I mean, just to very quickly share, I saw this documentary on the TWAS, like the reclamation yesterday. And I think the work that, all the quality managers are doing is super important as well. So great to see more areas in problem solving. And as you mentioned, collaborating with other people from different departments too. Right. And Prof. Lydia, I think you're working in the field of academic as well. So, I'm very curious, what's something that you really love about the job you're doing?
Okay. I think the one thing that I really like about my job is the opportunity to continuously learning. So I learn from my students. They are much better in a lot of aspects than us, right? I also learn because a big part of our job as academia is not only teaching, but also research and innovation. So we always strive to innovate new products, new materials for future technologies. And I think this put us on the edge and we always learn new things. So I think this is very exciting. There's never been a boring day in my life ever since I joined NTU.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, as a student in NTU, same thing. Never been a boring day as well. So yeah, thank you guys so much for sharing. And I think it's really interesting that there's a main commonality about problem solving and more importantly about, knowledge, the pursuit of knowledge. And I think it's super cool that, all three of our panelists really exhibit that curiosity. So from my understanding, I think most of you have actually been in your field for almost more than 10 years actually. So, I'm very curious about like how, within your many years of experience, how has your industry actually changed over the years and how do you actually adapt to these changes?
Okay, since I'm mute, okay. Actually, in STMicroelectronics, I should say I'm very honored and glad to be in this company. Every year, continuously, the companies are having a lot of R&D, creativities, breakthrough, and I've been with this company for almost 30 years. So within these 30 years, I seeing through that the wafer size has from 4-inch, 5-inch, and then now to 12-inch. And even the technology, BCD from 0.32 micron increased to about 90, reduced to about 90 nanometer. So I have worked on simple voltage regulators and then to now the smart mobility products and more to come. So we know that the industrial of engineering should not stop here. We should be continue improving to give us a better lifestyle, a more life augmented. So here, how I adapt to these changes is that do not stop here. That means continue to be like a cat, continue to be curious and go ahead and be inquisitive and then be brought now to ask. If you face any issue, do not feel shy and do not bottle up yourself because in the engineering field, everyone, the knowledge level could be different and the experiences is also very different. So I'm glad that I'm in this field here with very good colleagues around that are very willing to share also. Okay, so go with the flow of changes, hungry to learn, and of course yourself must continuous learning. Nowadays, the Googles, all these, the informations are all at the within reach. So continue to self-research and do the own studies. So this is how I adapt to the changes.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing, Miss Sam.
Yeah, just to add on to what Jolene has mentioned, right? Over the years, right, I do notice that STMicroelectronics has invested in building the data literacy as well. So nowadays, we actually have a more data-driven thinking, and even the decision making is also we have to use data. Okay, and it has enabled us to do our job better in a way more remote. You know. In the part-time, maybe we need to be present on site. Actually, the working environment has becoming very inflexible in the past, but not now. So this, with the data literacy investment and capabilities, right, it has in turn makes the working environment more flexible. And of course, it's more welcoming for me because besides as an employee of STM, I'm also a mother of two. So this has actually helped me to cope with my daily life very much.
Yeah, actually, thanks so much for sharing. I think that is also a topic that I'd love to delve into deeper as well. But before we continue with that, Miss Prof Lydia, you could also share a bit of what are some of the things that have changed across the years in your industry.
Okay, so the industry that we are talking about here is the Institute of Higher Learnings, right? University. So I think if we compare the university or NTU when I was still an undergrad 20 over years ago, and now it's very, very different. Firstly, NTU at that time is a teaching university. So we focus more on teaching rather than research. But over the past 10 to 20 years, we focus also on research, right? So that to be at the front edge of the innovation. And this also translates into different programs for the students. So in the past, we are very specific into different types of discipline, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, civil engineering, etc. Nowadays, we have many interdisciplinary programs where students are allowed to take courses. Engineering students can take courses from humanities, from education, they can take music, they can take business courses, and students can take as many minors as possible. So as long as you can maintain your academic standing, right? I have a student who have minors in applied physics, entrepreneurship, and business, and still a first-class honors student. So wow. I think there's really no boundary to what you can do in universities nowadays. And then also nowadays our students are very fortunate because there are a lot of overseas internship opportunities. Of course, this was before COVID. I think our target in NTU is 4 out of 5 students should have an opportunity to have an overseas exposure. So we really hope that this pandemic will be over soon so that the students can fully benefit from this program. And then a very different approach in higher learning education nowadays is the concept of flipped classroom. I think this is where we want to encourage students also to learn, to gain knowledge themselves rather than waiting for instruction from the professors, right? So here, I think we encourage students to, so we usually, nowadays in NTU, right, most of the lectures are recorded, even before COVID. We also, most of the lectures are recorded, pre-recorded. So students are supposed to listen to them before they come to the classroom. And then during the tutorials, the professors or the lecturers will post questions or case studies, and students can just discuss them within their groups, try to propose solutions and try to analyze deeper into the subjects. Perhaps Gia also has experience in this. Since you are a student, so maybe you can also share.
I was just about to chime in. So I think it brings up the point about having a lot more accessibility to the resources that we have. And actually, I think some people are asking the question about aside from doing online learning and all that, because now we have access to all these kind of technology and stuff, what other things can we actually focus on in terms of upskilling ourselves? Because as you know, things move on towards the future, like in terms of adapting to changes, upskilling is definitely one of them, and it's also been a government focus as well. So I think that is something that some of the students are actually interested to find out more about. So if anybody would like to chime in to, you know, aside from doing self-initiated learning, like what are some other skills that would be useful to hone and to have?
Maybe I can just jump in. I think it really depends on where you are at the moment, right? But I think looking into the future, I think digital literacy is really important. I think that's one thing. Digital literacy is nowadays primary school students are taught coding, right? So yeah.
So they do start very, very young. And actually, I think, you know, aside from like picking up the skills and stuff, I mean, one of, I mean, I'll just like chime in right now because this question was actually asked in the Q&A. So, I mean, just sharing a bit of personal experience as well. Like some of my own mentors have shared with me that aside from, you know, honing the technical skills that you have, you know, learning to go into projects to work with people, having soft skills, collaborative skills is a very useful tool as well. And I think those are the type of things that you learn when you're on the job. And, you know, we'll actually go into the topics about like on the job learning and how we can upskill as well. But I think this was just something that popped up and I thought it would be interesting to address. But, you know, aside from my upskilling and all that, there's also the area of, you know, managing your own career. And this actually brings me to my next question. And I think Ms. Tang, like, I would love to hear your input on this because aside from being engineers, you know, you have a second shift. Once you end, so there's a term inside in sociology, you know, the second shift, which is, you know, when ladies like do end their jobs, like at 9 to 5 job, once they go home, they are moms. So I think having these changes across the years, you know, having shared parental leave or, you know, what are some things you have noticed across your many years in this field that has helped you balance your career, not just as an engineer, but as a mom as well? So I'm quite interested in that area and I'd love to hear your input, Ms. Tang.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think first, my previous boss and my current boss, they are very supportive. This is the first fundamental that I think we need to have. And during the work days, right? Okay, of course, in our company, we are a company that is now currently very pro in the lean management. So we are able to manage all the activities within the time, you know, during the working time. So if we, as you know, if I'm working in the facility, means there will be times that I will have on standby. Okay, we need to respond to the messages or respond to the issues. But all this can be done quite easily now because of the digitalization, or we can, compared to the past, okay, maybe we have to be present in the company. I have to rush back to see what is going on. But currently, I think with the help of all the digitalizations, I can just turn on my laptop and I still can work from home. So that's the best part of it, I think. And it's really very much about self-discipline in the time management also. Okay, in the lean practices that we had today, we were asked to have a very systematic way of managing our time, and we have to do what is okay. We have to prioritize our tasks. I think that also requires some skill to do it. And usually when we are in the workforce, I think we are forced to do this prioritization. And the more we try to do, the better we are at doing so, you know. Yeah.
It's like a muscle that you need to train, you know.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, we have to first experience it. Of course, at first we may encounter several failures, you know, and we get frustrated. But eventually, we need to be determined to be able to continue to try on. And of course, as I said, without the support from my bosses, this will be going to be very difficult. But luckily, I have a very supportive boss. Yeah.
And I think it's great also because I mean we're seeing that change across like a lot of industries as well. And you know, aside from just having to balance between like family commitments and your career, you know, what are some of the notable changes, such as like more programs that are focusing on helping women in engineering, and pursue leadership or managerial roles, and essentially providing more opportunities for career development. What are some of the notable changes across your many years of experience that has helped you as a female in this field? Anybody can answer this question as well, because I think there is a collective experience of many years as well. So I think it would be really cool to get the input.
Okay, Jolene here. Your questions about any notable change. Of course, throughout the years, we have been very manual intensive to now very high in terms of automation and system digitalization coming in. So of course, this is a very, I should say, a milestone shift for each generations to, especially our generation here, we really see a very drastic change. So for this case, how we manage these changes, again, this is really is a time management, and we also make time, because everyone like nowadays we are very lean in a way, our the resources. So especially in engineering field, it is not easy to get people coming in. So with this program, I do hopefully, and I'm very encouraging, I like to see more people are coming into this engineering field. So with this, and I can say is that yeah, we will have tons of tasks, which is good because means we are valuable and we still have work to do. So again, all these come back to time management and make time. So you have to prioritize in terms of urgency, in terms of some cases that we need to see whether is it in a risk, is it a safety issue, or is it customers that are high demand. So for this case, we really, as a managerial role, we need to lay out with our teams to see which we should go first, and then have a good alignment also with our higher management teams. So we do not work alone. We have to work as a team to look into all the priorities and making the time. So this is how we have to help ourselves in this way. And then, as you mentioned, how we pursue leadership or managerial role. So here for young people coming in, I should think that you all should be progressively focused on your current role. What is your responsibility? And from that on, once you have shown, because the company go through with you and recruit you, is because firstly, your knowledge that you have learned in your university or in your learning courses, which is very good. That is a stepping stone. But the rest, how you progress, is also very key, is your behavior, your attitude, that come into how's your performance look like. So with your performance, of course, the management or your supervisor will provide a path for you to go for some courses. Like they will introduce you some management courses and upgrading soft skill courses, so that they are also preparing you for the next step. So go ahead and continue to show your passion and continue to move on. So once this is being established, of course, the next milestone will be layout also. So that is my sharing here.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Thanks so much for sharing. Anyone would like to add on to it?
Maybe on the maybe I just add on for the balancing family and career. I think I also a mother of two. So I feel that generally in Singapore, the government policy has been continuously trying to support career women or working women with children. So I think we do appreciate this across the industry, with the increased paternity leave, the increased flexi, the childcare and unconditional childcare leave, etc. I think those are really helpful. Of course, I think more can be done. Okay, if I can say a few wish lists, right? We are an Eastern, in the East, we are Asian countries. The ethos of working at a specific hours is stronger than some of the Western countries, where flexi hours and shorter hours for working mothers are more common. So I think this is something that hopefully in the future more can be done in this area. I think those are really helpful for working mothers. So they can, so in the Scandinavia, for example, it's very common for mothers to choose 80% workload. So they can go to office from 8 to 3 p.m. Then they can go home, fetch their children, prepare dinners, etc. So every day they have less workload than their full-time peers. Yeah. So hopefully we can also, Singapore also can move in this direction. And then the second one, in terms of moving up the managerial ladder. This is a very interesting question. I just heard from one of my colleagues that sometimes the moving up the managerial career is more psychological barrier for female. Female are generally more self-conscious and more perfectionist than men. So even though we have the same ability as men, assuming one man and one female, right, having exactly the same ability, the female will always feel that, oh, I'm only 80% prepared for this job. So if I'm only 80% prepared for this job, I will not put up myself as a candidate for this position because I'm not good enough. But the man is the other way around. Even though they're only 70 or 80%, they will say, yes, I can do the job. So this psychological barrier, I think we have to break it together. I think we have to learn from our male colleagues how to be how to portray ourselves or make ourselves more confident. Yeah.
Yeah, actually that's a very interesting point, and it sounds like there was some personal experiences involved in that sharing as well. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I think there is definitely a lot to learn, between like both our genders as well, like how we, pursue our career and how we actually want to progress. And I think some of the notable things that you guys have brought up is, the shifting away from manual labor, because, biologically, if we do have a lot of manual labor, especially within the more, like at least the older engineering fields, it would require somebody with more physical strength. So with automation, it actually increases the chance for us to be more inclusive and bring in people from everywhere as well. And I think the whole idea of like having a stronger mindset and, how we can make the workplace a bit more empowering for both genders, I think that's something that, I'd love to dive into as well. But this input that you guys have shared so far has opened up a lot of questions for me, and I'm very excited to continue engaging. So I think before we actually continue into like the whole career path and all that, let's take a step back to talk about how do we actually encourage people to even want to step into this field in the first place. So this is actually coming a bit more from an academic field, academic standpoint, but based on your observations, and especially with Prof. Lydia, because you're working in NTU and the graduate and undergraduate students, do you observe that females are actually entering or preferring to enter the engineering field over others, especially within the undergraduate level?
Okay, so in NTU, we have within the College of Engineering, we have 6 different schools: mechanical, electrical, civil, computer engineering, material science, where I'm coming from, as well as School of Chemical and Biomedical Engineering. So it is very common to find more female in material science and chemical and biomedical engineering. And in mechanical engineering, it is very famous, okay, to have 1 female out of 30 male in a tutorial group. So the female in mechanical engineering is very precious. Yeah, so unfortunately, yes, the answer to your question is yes. Yeah.
I see. And then, you guys are working within the field as well. Like, do you observe that with undergraduate female students who do apply to ST as like their jobs as well? For like Jolene and Miss Tiang, like across the years, do you all see more ladies like wanting to apply for like engineering roles within ST?
Okay, maybe I'm also quite interested to know in our students or undergraduate like you all, why you all choose more towards like just now Miss Wong has mentioned in terms of the triple E rather than the mechanical, or maybe the how to say those civil engineering. Is it because you think that this field need a lot of more manpower, whereby it's more labor intensive? So that's why they have this idea that lady normally the strength in physical strength are not as strong as a man. So could be this mindset lah. So which is also quite true. But mechanical things can be a lot of heavy machinery. And then in here, our even I think our maintenance team, we do our maintenance team, the ladies workforce is getting lesser because we see that a lot of manpower really needed to move all these heavy equipment, to manage all these heavy equipment. So for this case, maybe a conception that lady in terms of strength is quite inferior. So to have a female there, they have another male to come by to assist. So become like two resources may be needed lah. So could be this, but if you all can share with us why yourself here to see that the mechanical side we have only one lady. During my time also like that.
Yeah.
So I thought there's no more boundary, but then it still exists in this manner lah. Okay, so to me, to choose what kind of a field is still come back to our passion, because once you have a passion and you have the thoughts of going, because every passion that you have, all the challenges that come in, is actually become a motivator to let you move on. So no matter what field, I think it's still our inner passions that plays a very important role.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. And actually, Ms. Tiang, at this juncture, I also like to ask, like get a bit more information, because you mentioned that you actually do site visits quite a lot, and that itself I would categorize as kind of like manual labor. So, when you first joined the field, like what was your thought process, and like what made you want to join this? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's quite interesting. Yeah, this is the same questions that my colleague was asking me. Because in the facility, it's typically a male-dominated department. So in fact, I'm maybe the third lady working in the department. Yeah. So it's just I would like to try new things. That's why I venture into a facility. But from what I see, it's true that we have no female candidate for electrical, mechanical, and even gas and chemical. So our only colleague, female colleague in the facility department is the environmental. Now we have starting to hire safety officer, female safety officer, right? So and the building, okay, of course we have some ladies in the building management. I believe it's because the way we portray the job itself. That's why it has given an impression to many young women about being very laborers. Okay, but we could have changed that very much moving forward, because besides doing visit on the site, actually in fact it's not very difficult. But there are some part of the job which you need to repair. Okay, but that part nowadays we outsource very much. We just need to be mindful that most of the time, what is required now in the workforce is the problem-solving skill, and maybe the planning strategy on how to make our job better. So these are things that I think all of us as a woman can definitely perform same level as the men.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. So because I mean, I was planning to ask this a little bit later, but I mean, now that we are talking about, despite having positions for ladies to apply, especially within engineering, like many of them are still not, taking up that opportunity. And this sentiment is actually echoed by some other industry leaders as well. So earlier this year, like NTU Students Union, we actually had a video series where we interviewed industry leaders. So we had like leaders from the politics section, from banking, finance, engineering, everywhere. And all of them shared the same thing, that there are a lot of opportunities now that are created to bring in more ladies into the field, but people are not applying. So aside from what you mentioned just now, how can we through like better portrayal of the job in the role, what other things do you feel like would be useful in terms of like getting people to get interested and help to demystify certain jobs or certain roles within the engineering field? I would say this is like $1 million question, because like, a lot of people are actually thinking about this and finding out like how we can do this as well. So yes.
I really don't have the answer for that.
No, that's okay.
But I think based on the growing demands and growing needs for the automation and digitalization in the future, right? It's not something whether we want to consider. I think it's definitely something that we have to do from now onwards. So engineering is the most basic or the foundation of in our career. So we definitely, I would definitely think that, okay, for my kids, maybe they should start with the engineering. After that, they could venture into some other courses like business, sociology, which you complement it with it. I think it will definitely help, especially if there is the intention to move up the ladder. Because engineering itself it may not be sufficient or adequate for us to move up. So it's still about having a good foundation, and then the rest is leaving up to us on how we are going to be adaptable and agile in learning new skill, right?
Yeah. Prof. Lydia, you're going to.
Yeah, maybe I just add on to that. I guess this is really a difficult question. We also ask ourselves all these questions among the faculty, how to increase female enrollment for engineering courses, right? But I think when we talk about engineering here, let me just broaden up the scope a little bit to include engineering, science, and STEM in general, right? Science, technology, engineering, and maths. I guess what Georgia shared at the beginning, I think is very true. I share the same opinion that the mindset shift starts from family. So it will not be a change that will happen overnight. And I think all of us here who are mothers, who are engineers or scientists, can start from our own home to inculcate in our girls that they can be anything they want to be. And there's really no boundary to what they want to be. So I think this is really the first step. So I guess a lot of changing the mindset, right? So perhaps one of the things that this kind of forum can facilitate is maybe to have a conversation with mothers, how to raise the next generation of female scientists and engineers. How do we encourage our kids to be curious, to be interested in science since they're young? Yeah, I think this could be a good start. Yeah, and I think I'm confident with more and more female entering this profession in our generation, our kids' generation will see more and more female entering this profession as well. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I mean, that's a great idea. Sorry, Jolie, you muted. Yes, please add on.
Yeah, add on this because sometimes, yeah, I like for myself, I come from a family with no engineering background. So during that time when I wanted to choose as engineering, you know, all my aunties say, "Are you sure these are all manual?" You know, so so for that time I have a lot of negative comments. But then since my mother told me, you like to dismantle all my clock, all my things, electronic thing at home, you better go and learn it and how to fix it back. So she give to me it's an encouragement. So since I have no one nearby in my family that have engineering background, so I reached out to teachers during that time, my professor, all this, to learn more about engineering things. And next is that also I get some referral that they have already in this field. I also outreach to them. Reach out to them to ask them more questions and why they like those questions that you have posed in just now. So from there, I learned to get to say that, hey, it's a lot of things and a lot of wonders in this engineering field. So look out for people that are in this field already and are a very positive person, so they can share much fruitful experiences that they have that make you feel more energized and feel more that is very interesting kind of field. So don't be shy. So go out and meet. I think there are a lot of people around there to able to provide you more information, or even now better, you have Google, go in and look at all these field and what actually we are doing. So do not stop yourself there, just go out and reach out for people that is already in this field.
Yeah, actually, I think it's a great point. Thank you so much for bringing up that point, about building communities for yourself as well, so that you can nurture and continue growing your passions. And I mean, out of like the three of you, I'm sure like you guys would be happy to mentor our fellow participants as well if any of them want to reach out to you. So don't worry, like we're happy to see how we can link everyone up together, and it can be a very great two-way exchange for everybody as well. So I think thank you so much for all they were great ideas about community building, about how we can get the whole family involved in encouraging and creating future generation of students in STEM. So, I mean, Ms. Jolene, like, thanks for sharing the struggle you had at the very start as well. And that was something I wanted to ask you, but I think thank you for taking the initiative to share that. And I wanted to, ask the rest of our panelists, at the very start when you first pursued your career, like, what were some of the obstacles that you faced along the way? And for Ms. Jolene, she built a community and it helped her overcome that. Was it something similar for you guys? And how did you guys overcome that challenge?
So the challenges that I face, not too much about the technical know-how, because those are, okay, either you can get it from the books, you can do a research, you can find out more from the internet, I think the hardest part is still interacting with people. If we need to interact with many groups and we need to be aligned, or we need to make them align with our objectives, right? That's the biggest obstacle that I personally face. But over years, I would say, based on some trainings and observations and some mentoring, it does help. We can actually try it out with new methods to build a good relationship and to build trust. I think that in any workforce, when a new graduate, a graduate entering to the workforce, I think they do need someone to help them, like a mentor, to guide them through on if they are having some difficulties in building a relationship with the colleagues, right? Yep.
And Lydia?
Okay, so maybe I come from a slightly different angle. Okay, so I want to share the struggle of female academia or female scientists. So for me personally, right, at that time, actually after I finished my PhD, I actually joined a microelectronic industry as a R&D engineer for 2 years. My PhD was on microelectronics, and then after that, I was offered an opportunity to join NTU as a teaching faculty. But at that time, I was asked to change my research topic, no longer microelectronics, but on energy research. So from then on, I start to look up at a solar cell or solar water splitting or energy converting devices. So in terms of technical, there is a shift. So I think this is also one barrier that I hope most young people will not hesitate to take up. So even though you are trained in one discipline, do not be afraid to change. As long as you have a will, there will be a way. So that is a challenge. I think I take about 2 to 3 years until I finally be able to come up with my own first publication in solar cell. Yeah, so that's a little bit challenging. And then the second challenge is I feel in terms of expressing your scientific ideas. So I am actually not a very outgoing person compared to some of my peers at the beginning, especially when I was in the manufacturing setup, right? I think we were not exposed to expressing ourselves too much. So at that time, I think it took a lot of training and a period of time to help me be able to give a good talk, expressing ideas, public speaking. So I think, and I think this is quite common for female in general. If I observe in my students or research staff, I think men generally are more confident. Yeah, as I mentioned, they have 80%, they can sell it 100%. For female, we need to have 120%, then we can sell it as 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think knowing this, hopefully we can go through this barrier. Yeah. So I think those are the challenges. Yeah, and also I think for scientists in general, there is a longer working hours, so that could be also a challenge. And unfortunately, right, in academia, that we have what we call as a tenure clock. So when we start off, it's an assistant professor where we are on contract 3 to 6 years. After 6 years, if you meet the criteria, then you will be converted to a tenure position, a permanent position in the university. But if you cannot make it, then you have to leave the university. So this is a very, very stressful period. And for most of the young academia, this period happens between late 20s to late 30s, which also coincides with our biological clock. So unfortunately, actually, this is a real problem in academia, encouraging more female to take up a professorship, because sometimes we have to choose. You want to focus on your family or you want to focus on your career. Yeah, so I think these are some real challenges, but I think, again, as I think many of our panelists is mentioning, self-management, self-discipline, and determination will help you succeed in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all of that too. And I think having the perspective from the academia side actually shows that there are very different sets of problems that that are going on like within each industry when it comes to bringing women into the field. So I mean, just to gather a bit more like stuff before we slowly wrap up. I think some of the things that you guys have shared, is very focused on like how you behave and the things that you do. So, I mean, we do have some questions from our students as well, from our participants, and we can go into the Q&A shortly. But just before we jump into the Q&A, I think, are there any other, comments or advice you would like to actually share with our participants as they step into university and eventually into their career? After all, you guys have shared so much about your own personal experiences, and what is something that you would love to impart onto our next generation of STEM leaders?
Okay, to give advice to our young ladies here, entering into the career world. So as I mentioned, as I think now you are learning, so taking this learning journey is actually preparing you to come to this real industrial world. And then also do participate in the internship, which is a very good, is more to a field of the real industrial that you will be embarking on. And then, of course, graduation is a stepping stone. So with all this learned knowledge, we must able to apply, because learning and without apply is equal to zero, because it is not contributing to the society. So do learn as much as you can now in this in your university or in the schools, everything. So get as much this knowledge from the professor, from all your lecturers, very valuable, because this will comes into place one day, that these are very valuable that you can apply into your real world industrial career. So after that, the rest, how you move forward to your career is all up to you. How much you want to give yourself the capacity to move on and to expand your knowledge through experience and to do more research all by yourself. So this is what I think will move you further.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and Mr.
For me, it's just one advice. I mean, if you enter into engineering, okay, you have decided to enter into engineering. To me, it does not matter whether it's a mechanical, electrical, or there are few other engineering field. Eventually, when when you come into the workforce, right, I have seen it's quite simple to switch, whether you are doing a mechanical job or an engineering job. So they can be interchangeable. So you do not need to really worry, okay, when I come out as a mechanical engineer, I do need to do mechanical job. So this is not so rigid in the workforce. So this is just some sharing with all if you have decided to go into engineering. Yeah.
And Prof. Lydia?
I think I just want to share that when you girls are coming to industry in the next 10, 20, 30 years, the industry landscape may already change. So you may be dealing with more of machine learning, AI assisted smart manufacturing, which does not require hard labor. That's one thing. Many of the hard labor will be replaced by automation and robots. So don't be scared to sweat in your work. Yeah. So that's one thing. Secondly, I think there is a lot of innovation in science and engineering, and this is something that you should be excited about. For example, in my own field, material science, we look into soft robotics now. Yeah, how to make smart gripper, for example, or how to make technology from sustainable or recycled materials. So for example, recently my group built a solar cell on a pollen-derived paper. So you extract the pollen from flowers, make it into a paper, and then you print solar cell on top of it. So it is going to be a energy generating device, but from a sustainable solution. So when you think about engineering, think also on the science part. How your knowledge in chemistry, physics, and biology can be used to enhance a human life. Yeah, for example, in the future, we will also deal with digital healthcare. So, for example, a sensor, yeah, flexible sensor, a portable sensor, wearable sensors. All this will be part of our futures. So the landscape will change. So I think the message is don't be afraid to join engineering and science.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Yeah, and Ms. Relin, yes, you wanted to add on.
Just add on one. Yeah, there's no boundary. Unlike during our time, we are being customized in the course. EE means triple E. Unlike just now, Lydia Wong has shared. Now there's no boundaries. You can choose some minors. So do not create boundaries for yourself. Because now in this world we have a lot of mechatronics, we have robotics, we have medical. All these are integrating together already. So be open and then do accept. Every field have their very niche needs in this society. So be open, and then as a team, we really need to integrate all the STEMs people together to make the life better.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for the very insightful sharing. And I think just before we go, I'll just quickly summarize some of the very important pointers that we talked about today. So I think we actually aside from trying to understand how you came to where you are today. Thanks for all the personal sharings and sorry, a bit hot today, but yeah. Aside from all the personal sharings, I think you guys have also brought up certain areas that can have improvement within the areas of STEM. So one thing is about building confidence and empowering women who want to step into STEM and who are already in STEM. So how can we better empower them to build that confidence in them that if you had the same skill set, what you shouldn't hold yourself back because of it's a psychological thing, like what you guys mentioned. And another area is that we need to better encourage and look at how we can have more flexibility in terms of pursuing between career and family, and evidently so within the field of academia, especially with the long tenure and the certain amount of uncertainty within that area as well. But I think as all of you have shared, how you guys overcame your challenges, the three main things was that you guys were always very curious, you guys were very persevering, and you guys always adapt to change. So I think at the end of the day, what our panelists have mentioned is a lot about, aside from picking up the skills that you need to pick up, the technical skills, it's about building communities and being, you don't have to be afraid to not know things. Always reach out to people, build communities. And at the end of the day, through all these picked up soft skills that you pick up, go get an experience through your internships, learn to apply your knowledge, because there's so much innovation that is going on within our fields right now. And at the end of the day, let's change together with our landscape and collaborate with one another so that we can actually turn this STEM field into something that's inclusive and a place for women to join and nurture and grow. So with that, I'd just like to thank our panelists so much for the insightful sharing that they have given us today. And I think if let's say there are any other questions or if you'd like to link up with them, we can definitely see if our panelists are comfortable with sharing their emails and whatnot, so that there can be a sustainability in terms of what happens after this dialogue. So with that, I'd just like to hand over the time back to my other host, Hamid, to actually wrap up the session for us. So yeah, thank you so much once again for joining us.
Thank you, Gia, and thank you to our lovely panelists. It was very interesting listening. I'm not an engineer, but it was so interesting to hear about the work that you've done over these years, your experiences, and of course, your insights for our future generation. And Gia, thank you so much for summarizing the points. It's exactly as you stated, you hit the head right on the nail. It's all about building a community, building a sustainable movement in terms of what we can do to empower the next generation. So thank you so much to everyone, to our panelists once more, and to Gia, our student moderator. We just have a very quick request to our participants to fill up the feedback form. Your feedback is very important to the work that we do. We hope to bring you more such webinars, conversations, sessions with more industry experts, more industry women, so that we continue to keep these conversations going. So thank you everyone for your time this afternoon. Please fill in the feedback form as well, and we hope to see you at our next sessions. Thank you everyone.